last but not least, in the methodology series, we will address the concept of 10x progression. Okay, so we looked at 10x, the different 10x exercises, alpha, beta, gamma. We looked at how each of those exercises should be performed according to the 10x set standard at 12 RM, 5 seconds per rep, 60 seconds per exercise. Moving on to the next exercise. 10x circuits are the building blocks of routines. A circuit is defined as 3 exercises targeting the entire body with the lower body exercises and 2 upper body exercises. It's one single exercise, resistance exercise dose. All 10x routines are made up of 2 circuits or 2 doses for every routine, giving us the 6x routines, alpha, beta, and gamma. So we've got the 3 different types of routines, alpha, beta, gamma. Beta and gamma are optional. The 6x alpha routines, we get 3 different types, 6x alpha 1, 2, and 3. But with beta and gamma, we also have 3 types for each of those. And then we looked at the 2 different programs, 10x Optimus, which I highly recommend that if you are only going to be doing 10x, that you do twice per week rather than 10x Minimus, only once a week. But if you're just going to supplement your existing routine, 10x Minimus would be a good fit for you there. And now we will look at 10x progression, which is how we would go about adjusting the intensity of the exercises so that you can make continuous progress regardless of the exercises you've selected for your routines and regardless of the type of program that you're on. So let's get started. So the triple progression, remember, we can change the intensity one of 3 ways. So either we're going to increase the load as you do more reps, right? So remember, if you select the load where you do 12 reps and hit failure, as you get stronger, you'll do 13 rep, then your 14th rep, and then based on the 2 for 2 rule, which we'll discuss in a moment, you'll implement what is known as the double progressive system. And essentially all that means is you're trading reps for weight. What does that mean? So let's say you did 12 reps, you hit failure on your 12th rep, and then you get stronger, now you can do 15 reps. So 3 reps more than 12. But now we're moving out of our range. We're going over 60 seconds. We always want to stay within that range, within that intensity, right? So now what can you do? You increase the load of the exercise, you make it more difficult so that you fail around 12 reps again. So you're actually trading your 3 reps, because you can do 15 instead of 12, for more weight or for more difficulty. So make it more intense. Okay. And so that's the double progressive system, which includes the 2 ways that we make can increase the intensity, right? So we trade reps for load, and load comes in 2 forms, either more weight or we make the exercise more difficult. That gives us 2 ways to adjust the intensity. The third way we can adjust the intensity is by decreasing the total workout time, being sensitive to the total workout time. So we move from exercise to exercise a lot faster, but we don't rush the exercise, okay? Don't make the mistake of rushing the exercise when you start your exercise, right? Just so that you can have a short workout time. That defeats the entire purpose, okay? So those are the 3 ways that we increase the intensity relative to your rate of progress. This brings us to what is known as the 2 for 2 rule, okay? This is very important. I'm going to also show you in the 10x starting guide series how we actually do this. So for now, just understand that the 2 for 2 rule, as the name suggests, means that you increase the intensity whenever you reach 14 reps. Then essentially for 2 workouts in a row, then you'll make the exercise more difficult or you'll increase the load. So let me repeat that. Let's say you hit failure at 12, you're right where you need to be, but then you get stronger, you can do a 13th rep, you stay on the same weight or same exercise. Then you do 14 reps, you stay on the same weight and the same exercise. But if you do 14 reps for 2 workouts in a row, which is 2 reps more than 12 for 2 workouts in a row, because remember, if you made progress, it could be a fluke, right? It just could be by dint of not adjusting it could be a different machine, or the position of the machine was different this time, which made it a lot easier. You don't know. So to sort of control for that spontaneous improvement, we want to make sure that you did 14 reps for 2 reps in a row. 2 workouts in a row. And so then we know you really made progress. At that point, On your third workout, then you increase the load. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. So you can do 12 reps. You get stronger. You do 13 and 14. When you get to 14, now you're 2 reps above your target, which was 12. But it could be a fluke, the fact that you got to 14, right? But to ensure that it wasn't, you do another workout on the same weight and you replicate that result. So you get then 14 reps in workout 1, 14 reps in workout 2, and then now you're allowed to go up. And so in your third workout, then, okay, you increase the load, and now you can maybe only do 11 or 12 again because the load is heavier. All right. So the 1-for-4 rule is also very important. Okay. Now, the biggest problem for me when people follow certain programs, even some of the most strict programs, people make too many different changes while they train. So they change their grip, they change the type of exercise, they change where they train. And so then they mistake progress, let's say if they get increased reps or increased load, but they don't control for these very sensitive parameters and then mistake that for progress. And so so you stick to the same program for a long period of time. So we can compare apples to apples, workout by workout. However, the rule then is if you want to change an exercise, so let's say I want to start doing, instead of the push-up, I want to do a dip, right? Now let's say, again, if you do your workout and you did push-ups and then for some reason you did dips another day, and then you see your workout time was better, or you see your total volume is better, or whatever, you'll see how we actually track this. And you think, oh my God, like actually I improved here. Again, even though you probably did improve because, 12 reps for dips and 12 reps for push-ups, not the same thing. It's actually harder doing dips. But my point is the fact that you change an exercise, we can't be confident that you actually made progress. So we want to compare the exercise where you did a push-up with another workout where you did a push-up. Exactly the same exercises, exactly the same order, exactly the same exercises, exactly the same exercise equipment, exactly the same environment. All right. However, if you're going to make a change, then make sure you stick to the 1-for-4 rule. You make one change in your exercise type, the order, the actual equipment, and for at least 4 routines in a row. Okay, so let's say my routine, I'm always doing a squat, and this time I'm doing a lunge. Now, this is a good example where people can get confused, right? So imagine you do a squat, a pull, and a push, a squat, a pull, and a push. That's your 6x alpha 2 routine, right, at home. Now, let's say you want to change for lunges. Now, you can imagine if you're doing a split squat or lunge, you're doing now 1 leg at a time, right? But now all of a sudden you've doubled your squat time. So did you let's say regress because your workout time went from 10 minutes to 12 minutes? No, you just spent more time on your legs because you did 1 minute on left leg and 1 minute on right leg. So again, you have to control for these things. But let's say you select an exercise where you do a lunge instead of the squat, then you do that for 4 workouts in a row so you can start to see progress, and you might actually just stay on that until you feel like, okay, you've exhausted the, let's say, enjoyability, but as well as the potential for that particular workout. So you make the change again. All right, so when you make a change for load, you increase weight by 5% for upper body exercises and 10% for lower body exercises. So for example, if I'm doing a lat pull down at 100 kgs, I will improve it by 5%. So I'll go to 105 kgs when I exceed 14 reps, or I do 14 reps for 2 workouts in a row. For lower body exercises, if I do, let's say, my wall ball squat, I can then I can basically take dumbbells and increase the weight by roughly 10% of the total weight. So if my total weight is, let's say, 50 kgs, 25 kg dumbbells, then I can increase that by, let's say, another 5 kgs, 2.5s on each. All right, so then we can also change or make the exercise itself more difficult. We can decrease the leverage, so the position, stability, or type. Okay, I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then, of course, time. We can move from one exercise to the next as quickly as possible. So for load progression, very simple. If you're on a machine, as you get stronger, as you do 12 reps, eventually you get stronger, you do 13, and then you do 14, and then you do 14 twice in a row. Maybe you can go to 15, then you know it's time to go up. And so you would increase the weight, usually just literally one plate, would roughly correspond to about 5%. Okay, load progression for dumbbells, again, same thing. You would then go increase your weight by about 10% because it's a lower body exercise or a full body posterior chain exercise, and so that you would actually go up one increment of dumbbells for this exercise. Okay, so another way you can do this is with the weight vest. And again, these incremental weights on the vest itself, you could add or subtract depending on your progress. And again, here it would be about 5%. And so taking out, again, so if you have a weight vest like this, you would actually take out the weights from either side. So maybe 2 from the left and 2 from the right. Exercise progression, the way we would do this, if you can now, let's say you can do 12 push-ups and then you do 13 and 14, and eventually you can go to 15 push-ups according to our cadence, then it's time to make it a bit more challenging. So you can either slap on the weight vest or you can go on a set of gymnastic rings. I highly recommend that you own a set of gymnastic rings. Even if you think you're not strong enough to use them, you will get strong enough at some point where you'd be using them most of the time. Most of my workouts are still being done with these rings. And so you would then go from, let's say, 15 reps to maybe 10 on the rings. And then you would stay on the rings until you can exceed 12. Pseudo planche push-up. Again, for more advanced trainees, you could actually go from 15 push-ups. And then I'd first recommend that you do rings. And then as you get really strong on the rings, that you can do a pseudo planche push-up. And then you can just change the exercise type to make it a bit more intense. And so not every exercise will have a really good alternative, but for the push-up, a dip is a great alternative. So you could then go from a push-up to a ring dip or a parallel bar dip. In fact, push-up to parallel bar dip, and then from parallel bar dip eventually to the ring dip. And then again, you want to be sensitive to the amount of time you're spending between exercises, shorten that as much as you possibly can without rushing the exercises themselves to reduce your total workout time, which will make it a lot more challenging. And so there you have it. Next, we will now look at the 10X starting guide of how we will actually go about building your program from scratch and showing you how we go about tracking and implementing these progression principles. See you there.